All right, Shalom, Boaz here. We're back at it again. Just now finished doing some fixing work on adjusting some cabinets, readjusting some gas lines. But it's all fixed and the client is happy. But I'm sorry about the shadow because, as you can clearly see, I am driving west. But, just something that came to mind. Because you got to remember, I have a corporate background. Real corporate America. People talk about they was in corporate America. Now I just don't understand what they're describing. But neither here nor there. I have a corporate background. Corporate business cards, proof to show that I was in corporate America, resumes, things of that nature. But I have a background in human resources information systems, HR, the HR department. And people don't realize that the human resources department is probably the most powerful department in the organization because it decides the hiring and firing and all of the employee benefits, everything, HR decides that. And so my responsibility was to implement software systems in this space: time and attendance, payroll, HR, benefits, onboarding, offboarding, employee tracking, those kind of systems that fall under the umbrella of human resources. And I used to spend a lot of time speaking to directors of HR generalists, and I used to ask them a lot of questions during the course of the implementation phase, which would take, depending on the size and package of the system that I was working to implement with the software team, integrating with their current systems. It used to take about probably 3 months, 6 weeks, depending on the size again. And so being on the client site or at the client site, you get to see how an HR department operates. What are their core beliefs and philosophies associated with employees? And I'll tell you, the whole role and purpose of a human resources department is to protect the corporation from the employee. That's his whole purpose. That's his whole intent. And people don't realize it. People think that human resources is there for you, when it's not. It's a lie. But one of the things that I noticed was the overall shunning of friendships between management and employees. Because you have a subordinate situation in a work environment where people are attempting to accomplish a mission. That mission is to grow the deadline, implement systems, customer service, whatever it is that manager that is the head of that department is responsible for, and then you got the employees underneath. And the main reason why they shun management, let alone getting into physical relationships. One of the things you should never do, and I learned that out young in my career in the hard way, is getting into a relationship with a coworker. That's just something that you should never do. Never mess around with a coworker. It always ends up very, very bad, because if you're dealing with a coworker and the relationship goes south, you still got to go there. You still got to be there. But neither here nor there. They used to shun friendships between management and employees because as that friendship tightens, the interaction or the boundaries from that employee to that manager, typically it's the employee to the manager as opposed to the manager and employee. Now, the manager can show an employee favoritism, but that can take place without the existence of a friendship. You may have an ass kisser on staff. I mean, you know, person that's kissing this person's ass, this manager's ass. And hey, you know, who doesn't like their ass kissed, right? And then those people get preferential treatment. But going back to the notion of the reason why employees or management is shunned from getting into friendships with employees is because that employee will have the propensity sometimes to overstep their boundaries. They think that they're cool, they think that they're friends, and they think that they can come in late, they think they can talk in this old certain kind of way, they think they can be late on projects, they think that they can get preferential treatment just because they're cool with the manager, that they're friends with the manager. And so that's why it's shunned, because people sometimes, they overstep their boundaries. They forget that they're, at the end of the day, they're an employee and they're there to serve. They serve at the discretion and the pleasure of that manager, or that division head, or that CEO. Because, you know, you got managers, you got CFOs, CEOs, there's a hierarchy there. So you serve at the pleasure of these people that are above you. And if you violate that, it can put the manager in a compromising situation where his position may be out on the line, because his manager may see what's going on and fire him. I've seen that happen before. Remember, you know, I mean, the majority of my corporate background is in HR. Over 10 years before I left corporate to come out here and do what I'm doing now, which is a shepherd and a carpenter. But this is why it's mindful. You have to be mindful that these relationships or these friendships, if the employee does not understand and loses touch with reality, they'll overstep their bounds, and these problems will surface. And then that puts everybody in a compromising situation. But it's interesting to see that dynamic. And so you got to understand that these situations or these dynamics, whether you go over to organizations, whether you go over to nonprofits, things of that nature, some of these things do overlap and some of them don't. But again, it's the discernment to understand where those boundaries lie. Interesting, ain't it? Shalom.